Hello and welcome back to Nutrition Mission. I haven't done a podcast for a little while because I've been a busy bee, so I thought it was about time I shared some more information with you and hopefully dispel some myths, get you thinking about your food and make some changes that are positive and worthwhile for your healthy future. So I recently went along to a osteoporosis group that's based in Thanet, and I met some wonderful people, and the thing they had in common was osteoporosis and osteopenia. Now they asked me to come along and talk about food connected with these disease pictures and to give them some advice and guidance, and we had an absolutely wonderful conversation about this topic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put into audio what we talked about and hopefully galvanize your thoughts about bone health. Bone health gets very neglected, and it's something I'm very, very passionate about because of that. And the services that are provided with our health service have been dwindling, and there are people who are having bone fractures who aren't being captured and being diagnosed with osteoporosis as they should be. So it's kind of a neglected, silent disease. So let's share some information, and hopefully you will be able to then share it with the people around you, because it does need to be, that the word needs to be spread. It really does. It's so important. So let's make a start. Where shall I begin? I'm going to try and give this some order because I'm very unrehearsed with my podcasts. I like to just rattle off and chit chat so it's informal. So firstly, what is osteoporosis? Let's have a chat about that. So a good description of it is a low bone mass and a structural decline in the bone tissue. So basically, to put it in a really simple sense, is it gets full of holes. So if you imagine your thigh bone, if you were to slice through it, it would look holy. It would be aerated. It does look a bit weird, but that's basically what's happening here. And what that means is that the bone is weakened and you're at high risk of fracture. Now, that's osteoporosis. That's a disease picture. Now, there's another very similar disease or circumstance, which is called osteopenia. And that's subclinical, which means it's a stepping stone to osteoporosis. So really, that's weakened bones. They're not as strong as they could be. And if things don't change, then the strength will continue to decline and the individual could get osteoporosis. So when I say if things don't change, what I mean is, why is osteopenia present? Why are the bones weakened? And there's lots of reasons. And I'll cover those now, seeing as it's popped up. So why would our bones become weakened? It's a big list. Medications can cause problems with our bone density, and some of the big guns, and which I will go on to explain more, some of the big guns with this are cholesterol meds and proton pump inhibitors. So PPIs are medications that will dampen down your digestive processes. They're stopping the proton pump in the digestive system. So your absorbency changes, and that's a biggie. If you're not absorbing things properly, how on earth are you going to have strong bones? So I am going to go into that in more detail. So that's one of the causes, medications, and steroids is another one that can cause weakened bones. So people who are on long-term use of steroids for whatever reason should have their bones scanned. They should have it checked. An absolute given. So if you're one of these people listening, you need to be trotting off to your GP or a consultant and saying, right, I've been on these steroids for a very long time. So I would say over 12 months, I need to have my bone health checked. It's an absolutely essential part of that pathway. What else causes it? Alcoholism. Eating disorders, weight loss injections have been known now to contribute to poor bone density. Various health conditions that might lead to poor appetite. There's lots of reasons, cancer treatments, all kinds of treatments where you're not eating enough. Bariatric surgery, people may have had a gastric band, had their stomach stapled. So things that reduce your appetite, you're not eating as much, and then you're going to be malnourished. Weight gain can lead to poor bone density. You'd expect weight gain, the heavier you are, the stronger your bones to be. But the heavier we get, is it likely that we're going to exercise less? And if that happens, then the sedentary lifestyle could lead to poor bone density. So sedentary people could have poor bone density. What else? People who are too light. Strange, but true. So the skinny minis of the world, because there isn't that balance of weight bearing, they could have trouble. So there's plenty of reasons out there why we should look at our bone health. Now, another one is osteomalacia, and that's more prevalent in children. I'm not sure why, but it does occur in children. And it's softened bones, and that can be caused by vitamin D deficiency. So, it's rare now. It really is. It used to be called rickets, like an old-fashioned bone disease, and children would have bendy legs because of it. Okay, so let's have a look now. Why do we have a skeleton? What's the purpose of our bones? Because we do forget that. We kind of take it for granted, don't we? If we if we took away our skeleton, we'd just be a blob. Our organs wouldn't be able to function properly. Our lungs would be squished. Our digestive system wouldn't be able to work. So it gives us shape and form so that we can have our correct bodily functions. And that structure allows our muscles and our ligaments to attach. It's a safe zone for our vital organs as well. And our skeleton is designed for safety and mobility. So we can run away, we can chase, we can hunt. So it's part of our original hunter-gatherer structure. So it's as old as time, really. And as I say, it gets very, very forgotten. It tends to get remembered at Halloween. So, right, let's dive in to some of the big guns that lead to healthy bones, okay? And as I do that, I'll be talking about the foods where we can source these vitamins and minerals. So I'm not going to chat too much about calcium or magnesium because I've done separate podcasts about those, which you can find, and they're very, very in depth because they are two of the king minerals. Okay, so we have four king minerals: calcium and magnesium, which I've just mentioned, and sodium and potassium. They are king. And then we go down to other layers where we have queens, jacks, and then other trace minerals and elements. So I'm going to be running through those separately because they are so important. So do have a listen or a read to bring yourself up to speed with those. So I'm going to be focusing on some of the other elements of our bone health. And the first one I'm going to dive into is phosphorus. Now, phosphorus is really important, and it's just so missed. 85% of our phosphorus is stored in our bone. That's an incredible amount. So good bone health is really important. And if we have too little phosphorus or too much, things can go pretty wrong. Now, excess phosphorus can cause bone loss, which you'd think it would be the other way around, too low, but no, excess causes bone loss, because then what will happen is the body will leach out calcium from the bones to try and sort out and balance the phosphorus, which can then weaken the bones. So how do we get excess phosphorus? Too many fizzy drinks and also junk food. So the ultra processed foods and your soda pops, those will cause bone loss. Okay, now if we have a deficiency of phosphorus, if it goes the other way and it's too low, You can get muscle weakness, which will lead to chronic fatigue. You can get bone pain, confusion, numbness, anxiety, depression. And the trouble there is, if you're not tickety-boo and you're feeling frail, you're more likely to topple over and have a fall and fracture because you've got weak bones. So phosphorus too high or too low, it can all go pretty wrong. So there are certain things that can cause phosphorus deficiency, and a wonky thyroid can do it. So the thyroid gland plays a huge role in our phosphorus levels. Kidney problems, alcoholism, the proton pump inhibitors that I mentioned earlier, diuretic, so you might have a diuretic for heart disease, steroids that I mentioned earlier, malnutrition that I touched on earlier. All of that can affect your phosphorus levels. So be very mindful if there's stuff going on, what is happening with your phosphorus? And phosphorus is smattered throughout most foods. It's really, really easy to digest and eat. So I'm not going to do a list, because when I go on to some of the other vitamins and minerals associated with bone health, phosphorus will be in those foods. Okay, the list that I'm going to be reeling off, the phosphorus is there, so you don't need to worry. Okay, so let's dive in a bit further. I'm going to talk a little bit about protein now. Now, protein gets quite, again, it's something that gets missed and abandoned, because again, we're focusing on calcium, and we associate calcium with dark green leafy veg and dairy products. But protein is really important, because protein is part of our bony structure. Okay, what's going on inside our bone? So 30% of our bone is protein, and most of that is collagen. All right, so collagen is absolutely essential for bone health. Now, the function also of this protein is creating red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. So it's all connected with our immune system. It's very connected. If you, as soon as you mention red blood cells, we're talking about oxygenation and energy, how we generally feel. Okay. Oxygen is life, isn't it? It's our life force. So if we're looking at collagen as well, it's also very connected to how we absorb calcium. So diets that are low in protein will lead to low collagen, which could contribute to poor bone health. Okay, who are these people who are low in protein? Most definitely individuals on the weight loss injections. It's having a really worrying impact on protein levels with individuals, to the point where they're losing huge clumps of hair because their protein is so low. And that could lead to permanent alopecia. Unlikely, but it could happen. The risk is there. Vegans, vegetarians, some gastric conditions, colitis, Crohn's, protein absorbency can be poor. So, we need to be careful. And sometimes vegans and vegetarians, people who are on a dairy-free diet because they feel they have an intolerance or poor absorption, they might go on to looky-likey foods. They're not food. I hate to tell you this, but they are not food. They are ultra processed. I mean, oh gosh. So yeah, they're just, well, they're vile. They're vile. If you're a vegan or a vegetarian, I'm just going to have my little say here. Why would you go looking for something that looks like meat? Okay, why would you do that? I don't understand that. Just don't do it, because you're eating rubbish and you're poisoning yourself. Okay, so speech over, folks. So let's move on, right? Now I've had my little rant. There might be some more to come. I do warn you. It's all about being honest, isn't it? Now, what else have we got? So, oh yes. Something that's popped in my head. So there are four. There are four fat-soluble vitamins. Okay, so we've got the kings that I mentioned earlier. Okay, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. And then we're going down a layer in the pack of cards to the queens of the vitamins. And we've got vitamin K2, D3, vitamin A, and vitamin E. Okay, so they are some queen pins of our bone health. Now, what's important to remember about these chaps is that they're fat soluble. Okay, so when you look at your supplements, if you have them, they're in a little golden capsule normally, and that's the oil. Now that oil is helping you absorb your fat soluble vitamins K2, D3, A and E. All right. So what do they do? What on earth do these guys do? I mean, you know, the name doesn't give it away at all, does it? Sometimes they do, but these guys don't. So let's start with vitamin D. Vitamin D is a bricklayer, all right? So imagine a fella coming along and he's laying down his layer of bricks with his mortar. He's making sure they're all lined up and they're all strong. And that's really what vitamin D3 does. It's the bricklayer, gathering up the calcium bricks and making sure that they're all ready for the process. Okay, so he's lining up his bricks, getting them all ready. And that goes into the bloodstream for transportation to our bones. Now, it's so interesting because D3 regulates our phosphate levels and it increases our calcium absorbency by 20%. That's a lot, isn't it? A fifth is increased just by our D3. So important. Now, vitamin K is an architect. I like to say it's the architect. Okay, so this is what's implanting into the bone. So you've got the bricklayer that's getting everything ready. He's mixing up his concrete. He's lining it up. He's making sure everything's all okay. And then the K2, the architect, is ensuring that everything's placed in the right place. So the K2 is where the calcium is correctly placed into the bony structure. Okay, it's taken from the blood and it's inserted into the bone. That's putting it in a very simple way. There's lots of chemical processes that are happening, but just to help you remember, D3 is the bricklayer, K2 is the architect. Now, interestingly, K2 is really critical for blood clotting. Okay, and K2 is very connected to our gut bacteria. So if our gut health is poor, our clotting factors will be poor. It's very important. And again, it's something that gets very missed. K2 has just started to come a bit more prominent with studies. It's picking up momentum, which is absolutely great. Now we have vitamin A. Vitamin A is a labourer. And this vitamin is assisting in the whole process of the journey of calcium. It's helping in the conversion. It's there with its clipboard going, right, you know, what do I do? And then it's picking up its spade and it's getting on with it. It's absolutely fabulous. So you've got these three roles. And then vitamin E, a bit more serious, I think, vitamin E, because it's promoting osteoblast activity, which is the bone formation. Okay, now I have to get this the right way round. Osteoblasts lead to the production of bone building. Okay, osteoclasts lead to the bone remodeling, like breaking down. So osteoblasts are really, really important because they're building. So vitamin E is promoting that activity. Okay, it's allowing it to happen. So it's absolutely fabulous. Just a little caveat that I want to say here. Do not supplement K2 if you're taking blood thinners, okay? Because of its blood clotting promotion or facilitation, you shouldn't take it with blood thinners. Yeah, because you could end up really, really bleeding, and we don't want that. We really don't want that, do we? So, okay, so let's go on to the sources of these vitamin-soluble vitamins. And I'll run through them one by one. So, and you'll see that there are crossovers all right, and all of these you're sourcing your phosphorus as well, and there's going to be calcium and magnesium in these chaps too. So they're not just limited to these specific vitamins. They're universal. Nature provides. You'll hear me say that a lot. Nature provides. That's its job, isn't it? So D3. So sunlight, most of you will know about that. Oily fish, so salmon, pilchard, sardines, trout, mackerel. Fortified foods. I hate saying that because that's ultra processed foods. But yep, fortified foods will contain vitamin D3. Mushrooms, great source of vitamin D3. Just a caveat here, the mushrooms that are grown under fake light will be lower. They need to be grown outside and having the opportunity to actually see daylight. Wouldn't that be lovely? Egg yolks, cod liver oil, and orange juice. They're sort of the main sources. So vitamin K2, blue cheese. I can't stand the stuff, stinky, but blue cheese is loaded with K2. Liver, fermented foods. So sauerkraut is a good one. Egg yolks again, butter, the oily fish. They're all loaded with the K2. Now, vitamin A. So vitamin A is quite hard to supplement. You can get it through let me think, carotenoids. So that would be in a supplement if you did take a tablet. But its better form is in its live natural form, okay, its natural state, which is retinol, which is animal based. So you would source that through your liver, fish, egg yolks, dairy products, okay. So if you're looking at plant-based foods, you'd be going for orange and yellow food, so carrots, leafy green vegetables, cantaloupe, mango, they're really good sources as well. So I would avoid really having a supplement of vitamin A. I really think it's better through food. Now, it's interesting, low-fat diets and certain meds can block the vitamin K2. So your statins, blood thinners, antidepressants, antacids, medications for high blood pressure, all of those can block K2. So be careful. And I think I did touch on it earlier. The cholesterol meds and the proton pump inhibitors, they can block your fat soluble vitamin absorption. So it needs to be constantly reviewed. So as soon as we're talking about fat soluble fats, that's going to lead me quite nicely to the gallbladder. So why on earth is the gallbladder connected to bone health? I can hear you asking. I've asked that myself. Now the gallbladder is interesting. So it's a pouch that sits close to the liver, and this collects our bile salts, digestive juices, as you may know them as, and it squirts digestive juices to help us digest fats. So if you have problems with your gallbladder or you have problems with your liver, you may have difficulty absorbing your fat soluble vitamins. So it's well worth watching your liver and gallbladder health and bearing that in mind, that there could be problems there, and it does get missed. It's very overlooked. The proton pump inhibitors, I did promise that I would touch on those a bit more. So firstly, their names is omeprazole, lansoprazole, pantoprazole, and esomeprazole. Mouthfuls, I know, but their group name is proton pump inhibitors, and they will block the enzymatic function that so let me say that again. They are blocking enzymatic functions, so that, in other words, they are lowering the amount of acid that our stomach produces, and in doing so they're lowering our potential absorbency of vitamins and minerals. So long-term use of proton pump inhibitors is not good. They were originally designed for short-term use, and their usage has got greater and greater and greater. And sometimes people aren't even having them reviewed. And I suggest you do, because it could be that you're taking a medication and you no longer need it. So check, double check, try the lifestyle changes and see if you can make some adaptations so you won't need something that's lowering the amount of stomach acid that you produce, and then you will start absorbing your food better. I mean, it isn't rocket science, but it gets so ignored, sadly. And tragically, it can lead to some very serious health conditions like osteoporosis. So be mindful, guys and gals. Those of you who have stomach acid, and you were prescribed a proton pump inhibitor, do you really need that med? Are you popping a pill that really isn't necessary? It could be costing you money as well. So look at some lifestyle changes. If you do a search on my website, then there's some bits and pieces that you can tap into to get some advice on how to make the right changes. And you may find it's really worth it and it pays dividends. Give it a go. So, where are we? We're talking about fats. I've talked about proton pump inhibitors. What else is there? Oh, yep. Here we go. So, there's some layers of trace minerals that are contributory to our bone health. What are they? Zinc, copper, and boron. They're I would say they're the top guns. They're the top layer. And generally, if those guys are sorted out, other trace minerals follow. And this goes back to what I said, nature provides. It will give you the balance. The ultra processed foods won't, but nature will. And you'll see when I talk about the sources of these foods, where there's the overlaps and how easy it is to get them in. So let's expand. So what does zinc do? Let's start there. So zinc is assisting in the formation of bone. It helps with remodeling and mineralization. So it's the glue. It's really helping. It supports and backs up calcium and magnesium. And it's also helping to stimulate those osteoblasts that I mentioned earlier, okay, the bone building. And it helps to police the osteoclasts, and they're the bone resorbing. Okay, so they're really important for bone building. So, for example, if you had a fracture, supplementation of zinc wouldn't be a bad idea, because your body's having to work really hard with bone building, and you want the osteoblasts to be really prominent and able to do their job. There have been a number of studies that have corroborated the connection with low zinc and fractures, and to me that speaks volumes. So really keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on your diet. Are you having enough zinc? Now let's bring in copper, which is really critical for bone health. And this is interesting. Copper is connected to a drop in bone density. And again, there's studies that have demonstrated this. So where they've looked at it and copper levels have been low, the femur and femoral neck density has dropped, and these fractures have gone up. So copper, who'd have thought it? Boron is another one. It doesn't get mentioned much, but boron aids the absorption of calcium and magnesium and vitamin D. So it's so important. Plus, it also assists in the metabolism of hormones like estrogen. So if we're low in boron and you're going through perimenopause, you're going to have an effect. It's going to have a rolling through effect on your estrogen levels, which are already struggling because of perimenopausal changes. So let's have a look at the sources, okay? And you'll see the overlaps that I've been mentioning. So zinc, you can source through seafood, which is your salmon, pilchard, sardines, prawns, oysters, nuts, seeds, dairy products, various meats, and that includes chicken and turkey, beef, pork and lamb, and eggs. So zinc it's there threaded through. I mean, there's stacks of zinc in pumpkin seeds, for example, and they can be dropped into all kinds of dishes or ground up and sprinkled onto granola. Again, there's ideas on my website if you need ideas. So what else have we got? Copper was another one I mentioned, wasn't it? So copper is found in your organ meats. So that's liver, kidney, and then it's also in your shellfish, seafood, nuts and seeds again, whole grains, legumes, sweet potato. I mentioned that earlier, didn't I? Avocado, mushrooms. Now the best mushroom is the shiitake mushroom, and tofu. So for vegetarians, there's tofu's absolutely wonderful. And then I mentioned boron, didn't I? So apples, grapes, raisins, sweet potato, white potato, broccoli, your dark leafy green vegetables. So that would be kale, cabbage. What else have we got? Spinach, the tops of broccoli, the broccoli leaves, legumes, and peanuts in particular. So there's loads of choice there, and there's plenty of overlap. So you really don't need to hyper focus on one food because it's threaded through. And I'm going to say it again, at risk of being very boring. It's nature provides. It does the job for you. Yeah, just variety. So what else did I want to talk about? I'm trying to think what I've missed. Oh yes, bile salts. So I've touched on this earlier with the proton pump inhibitors and the medications. So our digestive juices, our juicy salts, our bile salts, they're made of cholesterol. So cholesterol is essential. Cholesterol is part of our brain health, our cognitive health, our bone health, our gut health. Oh man, it's just everywhere. It really is. So, we need to make sure that our cholesterol's at a good level. It's really essential for the sex hormones, and it's just fabulous. So where we're taking medications that are blocking and influencing our cholesterol levels, or we're on low fat diets, we could be really, really messing with our overall health, including our bone health. Okay. So, the perimenopause, menopause, Alzheimer's, dementia, bone health, overall hormonal health, aging, cholesterol it's up there. So please do be careful. I have attached some links and some resources that you could have a look at, and I hope you've enjoyed this. There's a lot to say, and it's very difficult to condense it down. That's partly why I've stripped out calcium and magnesium from this, because they're being dealt with separately. Please follow. I'm on various resources, so the links are all there. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook. I've got my website, LinkedIn, YouTube. So the audio is going to be building and growing. And if there's anything in particular that you want me to address, then message me, because this is about reaching out into the public domain and trying to get some really good information out there. Because trust me, there are plenty of horrific influencers out there who appear to be glossy and golden and providing this wonderful resource of information, where actually they have absolutely no qualifications or background to actually give any kudos or credit to what they're saying. So please, please, please be careful with the information that you're sourcing, and make sure that it's coming from an expert background. And when I say expert, I mean someone who has the credentials to back it up and has the experience to back it up, because a 5-minute influencer cannot do that. Okay, so please be safe. That's what this is all about keeping you safe and healthy. And thank you for listening. And I really hope you've enjoyed this, and take care.